Welcome back to part 2 of the Pure Land. It's time for Japan, friends. We are going to Japan. My name is Dr. Rob C. Thompson, joined by Nikki Hiller-Henderson. Nikki?
Hello.
What'd you like about China and India last time?
Well, I feel partially cleansed. You know, we learned a lot. Cleansed me of some of the impurities. I've been really thinking about the name of the Buddha that I totally remember off the top of my head and can pronounce.
Amitabha.
Yes.
Amitayus.
So,
yes.
yeah, those. Just been thinking those.
Today I'm going to teach you a phrase that you can use to get you to that Pure Land. You just got to memorize it. It's a short line. You're an actor. You've got this. You're going to be just fine. Jake, how about you? India, China? How'd you feel?
Yeah, pondering on the names, thinking about, existential dread and light at the end of a tunnel. It's given me a lot, the time between now and the last episode, just to sit and ponder for a little bit. And there's nothing that brings me closer to enlightenment than just thinking life is hopeless. So
there you go. You got to embrace it. Let it go.
Yeah.
Be a good existentialist.
They wrote a song about it too.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But we don't want to be nihilists today. We're going to be Pure Land Buddhist. From the muck blooms the lotus, Jake. Here we go. References to the Pure Land, or Jodo, date to the time of Prince Shotoku, who reigned until 622. But this does not mean that Pure Land Buddhism was popular at this period. The scholar James Dobbins observes that the number of translations of the Pure Land Sutras grew over the course of the Nara period, when Japan's capital was located in present-day Nara from 710 to 794, and 7 statues of Amida were cast at Kofukuji between 780 and 806, not necessarily out of any specific devotion to Amida, but rather as an acknowledgement that he aids the dead, at least among aristocrats. So role number 1 for Amitabha Buddha, or Amida, is, I'm dying, I need some help. It's like, coming to Christ, on your deathbed.
Life alert.
Okay, last ditch.
But they didn't view it that way because they were probably, reasonably interested Buddhists of some kind throughout their lives. And Amida's just who you would turn to at death. You see what I mean? So it's not like you're, guiltily going to Amitabha and being like, man, I should have been more with you earlier.
Oh,
being
that's
like,
just
I'm going to die.
Kind of like Grim Reaper-esque figure.
Yeah. It's
when
his
you're
turn.
On your way out, they're the one that'll get
but
you.
Full of light and love. So much better than what we have Grim
But they'll come
Reaper-wise.
and get you, as in pick you up, not get you, as in, yeah, literally I was thinking of like the ferryman type.
Yeah.
So during the Nara period, a popular mandala attributed to Chico depicted a seated Amitabha Buddha and was used as an aid for contemplation. In the Nara period, Pure Land was a way of memorializing the dead for aristocrats, and one aspect of a larger practice of Buddhism for monks. Now, during the Heian period, which lasted until 1185, Pure Land Buddhism began to come into its own. The population was concerned with Mappo. So Jake and I were talking last episode about, apocalypse. This is the actual Japanese Buddhist word for that, Mappo. It is the degeneration of society after the passing of the Buddha, a kind of apocalyptic theory of the loss of the Dharma law. Ryojin, who lived from 912 to 985, was the first Tendai priest to write about the Pure Land in a treatise on the 9 levels of the Pure Land that focused on the final step of rebirth into the highest level, or Jobonjo. For Ryojin, Pure Land teaching required rigorous religious effort in the realm of meditation, contemplation, and good works. Now this is going to change, but right now you got to work real hard to go to the Pure Land. In this way, he interpreted the Pure Land as theological support for Tendai Buddhism. Simply putting one's faith in the Amitabha Buddha was enough to gain entry to the Pure Land, but not to the highest level. It's a little bit like a Catholic heaven or hell. There's levels. Ryojin was a high-ranking figure at Mount Hiei, and so his work on the Pure Land was likely overlooked at the time because the Pure Land moved in an anti-establishment direction. So Pure Land Buddhism starts in the Tendai Temple, but it goes off, in this sort of like hippie counterculture space in the medieval period.
Naturally.
As one does, yes. Yeah. Like Jesus, right? Yeah. Koya was an itinerant monk who focused on good deeds, religious practice, and speaking the Nembutsu. Remember that word. He developed a following of over 600 and studied briefly at Mount Hiei with the head priest Ensho, but felt called back to his evangelical work among the people. Haijiri, religious devotees who chanted the Nembutsu 10,000 times a day, popularized Pure Land teaching among the poor, the poor who become the pure, likely with a more magical and shamanic focus. Aristocrats, particularly the politically powerful Fujiwara family, patronized Pure Land monks, and Pure Land art and poetry began to emerge. Now, if you're wondering what the Nembutsu is and all that sort of business, we're going to get to that when we talk about the theory of Pure Land Buddhism in Japan, but we're just walking through the history now, and Jake's going to read us this lovely poem by Shimada Tadayomi.
A View at Evening by a Pond in the Woods by Shimada Tadayomi. Flowers bright, waters turbulent, there are pines filled with wind. Passing by, I plow the tracks of our Nida Buddha. In doing so, I contemplate his sublime kingdom in the western region. My voice, singing praises, harmonizes at that moment with the eventide bells.
Nice.
Thank you. I was channeling some ASMR there.
It felt good. Yeah, I felt that. At the turn of the millennium, Yoshige no Yasutane, the son of a court scholar who gave up his life as a Kyoto aristocrat to become a monk, wrote Nihon Ojo Gokarukau Kai, which was among the first books to translate Pure Land concepts into layman's terms by framing Pure Land teaching through 42 biographies of Japanese men and women who achieved rebirth in the Pure Land. The Japanese love these little stories. Such a feature of Japanese culture, Shinto and Buddhism. 42 biographies. So there's just these short stories of the lives of these people who they believed were reborn in the Pure Land. But the foremost Pure Land thinker of the time period was Genshin, a student of Ryojin's at Mount Hiei. In his 30s, Genshin retreated to Yokawa, where he wrote the highly influential Ojoyosha, or Essays on Birth into the Pure Land. Like Yasutane, Genshin wrote for a broad audience, framing his text as a guidebook for the ritual of Nembutsu. While sometimes more technical than Yasutane, the book was among the first to present Pure Land as a complete practice for salvation unto itself. The book was widely influential. A woodblock print was made within 100 years of Genshin's death, and dozens of editions were issued over the ensuing centuries. Pity the medieval monk, right? Like, they are changing the world, but they have no idea. so that was within 100 years of his death. It finally makes it to a woodblock.
Finally.
Genshin wrote, "Truly this world is a prison house, and the Pure Land is our true country. We should therefore make haste to dislike and escape from this prison house and return to our true country of the Pure Land." Genshin folks,
gotta agree.
how's that?
Yeah, no, that
you feel that?
Yeah, that one hit.
Especially all that apocalyptic talk,
yeah,
right?
No, this is a prison.
Mappo, man. Genshin focused on the idea, hinted at in the Pure Land Sutras, that ours was a world of illusion in comparison with Amitabha Buddha's field. So the field is real. We are in a world of illusion. The prison house is the illusion. Quoting the Bodhisattva Asvagosha, why don't you go ahead and do this one, Jake? Quote the Bodhisattva Asvagosha.
The various phenomena of existence are like a vision and like an illusion. Kingly rank, high frame, and the wielding of power, none of these can remain when impermanency comes over them. A floating cloud seems to be there, but suddenly it disappears and becomes nothing.
Keep going, man.
And again, now the sphere of dreams is like the story, and all existence is like a dream. When a man has not awakened from the dream of vain thoughts, he looks upon things in the emptiness as though they were real.
I love that metaphor. It's so simple, and we've heard it so many times in so many different ways. But what we think we are seeing, the prison house that we are seeing, is the dream that we need to wake up from. Do you ever dream that you're in your room or dream that you're sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
I have so many dreams where I dream I wake up
This
and
is
then I
That's gotta
like
happen.
Whoa.
you know do
That's
whatever
gotta
and then
happen.
I wake up for real. I'm
We
like,
think we're waking up, but we're not really waking
I do-
up. We're still in the dream. The dream is all around us. Truly waking up is realizing that we are not actually in the prison house.
I don't know why that like is more comforting to me than thinking about like apocalypse is. Like I think it feels like it's almost like it's closer to me than, you know, an end times like thinking.
The Buddha is within you and the Pure Land is around you. I mean, this is such a comforting thought. If we can just change our perception, all is right with the world. It's a call to presence. I think that we've fetishized mindfulness quite a bit in the West, like so much so that we do it in elementary school now. But it's a call to presence, which is not, and I understand mindfulness has a deep relationship to all kinds of Buddhism, but is not really Buddhism per se. That mindfulness here is an awareness that we just need to come to, and then all is well. The path of the Pure Land is perpetually available as long as you live. Let us realize, therefore, that when one comes to the hour of death, even though it be in a grass hut, at that very moment one can take his place upon the lotus seat. One can follow after Amida Nayurai, and in the company with a host of bodhisattvas be born in a moment into the realm of the Pure Land, which lies in the west 10,000 lands away. When the rebirth in the Pure Land takes place, the believer is like a blind man who has for the first time received his sight, or like a man from the country who has suddenly been transported to a palace, and they become possessed of supernatural ability. If, for example, they wish to look across the universe without taking a step, they can do so. If they wish to hear the voice of anyone in the universe, they can do so without moving from their seats. Not only this, but they can also hear the things of the infinite past as if they were happening today. They know the inmost thoughts and the feelings of the 6 realms as if they were reflected in a mirror. They can go and come freely as if all the lands of the Buddha in all the 10 directions lay beneath their feet. They can do anything they please in the realm of infinite space. So that sort of is outlining all the magic that we were promised earlier. Genshin was focused on attaining better circumstances in the next life. For him, the goal was rebirth in the Pure Land, and the Pure Land was a place to continue to work at one's awakening or enlightenment. This world and this life were still inferior to what the believer could achieve in the next, hence all the talk of our world as a world of illusion. Honen and his student, the founder of Shin Buddhism, namely Shinran, would follow with a very different approach to Pure Land Buddhism, bringing the Amitabha Buddha straight into our own time and place. So let's move on to Shinran now. When we talk about Pure Land Buddhism being the most popular religion in Japan, which it is, the biggest numbers, it is really Shin Buddhism, which is Shinran's version of Pure Land Buddhism. So who was Shinran? He was born in 1173 into the home of a low-ranking court advisor to the Empress Dowager in Kyoto during the reign of the Fujiwara clan. The centralized power of the aristocracy was in decline at the time of Shinran's birth, with the warrior families, the Taira and Minamoto, in open conflict, with the Taira rising briefly to power before the Minamoto wiped them out, more or less completely. There is some debate about why Shinran became a Buddhist monk. Tradition holds that both of his parents died, although it's also possible that his father and brothers also became Buddhist monks together, bringing Shinran to the Tendai Buddhist monastery at Mount Hiei at a relatively young age. His partner Ishini recorded much later that Shinran had been a monk of the practice hall at the monastery, meaning that he meditated on the Pure Land Buddha and walked around. Remember the Amitabha Buddha? And chanted, remember that ritual? He chanted the Nimbutsu for 90 days in an effort to make the Buddhas of the universe appear to him. The low-ranking Shinran was likely responsible for doing the chanting. The chanting is Namu Amida Butsu. You guys want to try it?
Namu
Amida
Butsu.
Amida
Yeah, you're good
Butsu.
now. You're good to go. That's your ritual.
Nice. Oh,
You
cleansed.
just said, essentially, I take refuge in the Amida Buddha.
Oh.
Shinran spent 20 years as a hall monk, beginning at the age of 9. So you could be a Buddhist monk quite young, especially if you were orphaned. Or if your dad, joined the monastery and just brought you with him.
Do not kill your parents to become a monk faster. That's
No,
not
you don't
the
have
point.
to. You do father-son Buddhism. At 29, he became disillusioned by temple politics and he left for a retreat. This was fairly common among medieval monks who broke with the temple establishment in increasing numbers, leading to the development of a variety of new schools of Buddhism, including Dogen's Zen and Nichiren Buddhism. So the most famous Buddhisms came out of this split in Japan. Shinran went on a 100-day retreat to a temple dedicated to Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, known in Japan as Kannon. Very significant, legendary figure, Kannon, who sits beside the Amida Buddha in his Pure Land, along with the Bodhisattva of wisdom. Kannon, in his or her profound compassion, was believed to be able to assist believers in any adversity, whether it is this worldly or otherworldly. Kannon could assist in suffering brought on by demons or personal shortcomings like attachment, anger, or ignorance, or Kannon could also help in floods, fires, famines, imprisonment, or attacks by bandits. So if you're having a hard time, you call Kannon.
That's your guy. He got you covered all the bases.
It's your guy. On the 95th day of his retreat, Shinran received a vision of the Buddhist Emperor Prince Shotoku. Now, Shotoku was a real historical figure who lived and ruled through the turn of the 6th into the 7th centuries in Japan, and is credited with bringing Chinese culture to Japan, particularly Buddhism. Shotoku successfully centralized Japan's government based on a cap and rank system, also imported from China. He commissioned the building of Shitonoji Temple in Osaka. Writing to the Chinese Emperor Sui, Shotoku also coined the phrase the land of the rising sun to refer to Japan, which we discussed in an earlier episode. Given his role in importing Buddhism to Japan during his lifetime, or during the lifetime of Shinran, Shotoku was often regarded as a supernatural figure. So Shinran, much later, right, hundreds of years after Shotoku has become a supernatural figure and is sometimes regarded as an incarnation of the Bodhisattva Kannon, whose temple was the site of Shinran's vision. Shinran was likely inspired by Shotoku as a Buddhist figure who never separated himself from family or worldly affairs. Shotoku, the prince, significantly remained a prince, but did all this cool Buddhist stuff. In the vision, Shotoku told Shinran to seek out the monk Honen and to hear his teaching. So just right now, Shinran is just a monk, but he's going to become a more complicated and interesting monk as time passes. He's just a regular monk on a retreat right now. Like Shinran, Honen had been a Tendai monk on Mount Hiei and left, moving to Yoshimitsu in the hills of Kyoto, where he had lived for 26 years when Shinran first met him. Honen was more concerned with the problem of daily life than the finer points of Buddhist doctrine. He was strict, but very self-critical, and uniquely concerned with the spiritual welfare of women, who continue to occupy important roles in Honen's sect of Pure Land Buddhism, Jodoshu. So there is still a sect of Honen Buddhism, even though Shinran's is the biggest now. His student, took over, but Honen's still out there kicking around. And he loved the ladies. Who doesn't?
I mean, a lot of people do, but that doesn't mean they're getting the respect they deserve.
They were in Jodoshu.
Well, thank goodness.
Honen's got you. He taught believers to say the Nembutsu, which you guys just did. I seek refuge in the Amida Buddha. However, Honen's big innovation is that he detached it from the complex of practices in which it was incorporated at the monastery. Remember, we're circling around a statue and we're repeating it over and over and we're chanting. Honen said that the Amida Buddha sought a practice that anyone could accomplish and arrived at the saying of the Nembutsu. Anyone who said, Namu Amida Butsu, I take refuge in the Amida Buddha, would be welcomed into the Pure Land in their next birth, where they could more easily work toward their own enlightenment. It is as simple as that.
No more 90 days of chanting. No more.
Oh, just like a one and done type thing?
It ultimately becomes slightly more complex, but not wildly so. If you can say it and mean it, off you go. If you can really take refuge in the Amida Buddha. Namu Amida Butsu. I take refuge in the Amida Buddha. So, inspired by his vision, Shinran visited Honen every day for 100 days to hear his teaching. So this is what Honen is teaching. He says, you just say these words. And when you think about it, I mean, this has often haunted me as someone who studies religion quite a bit and considers that study to have some significance. I am able to think through the ins and outs, right, of belief systems and arrive at a complex kind of theology that I don't think is entirely unique to me. But I worry sometimes that, people are not born of equal intelligence, right? People are not born of equal means to do what I do. So what does that say about spiritual truth? Should spiritual truth, or is spiritual truth, exclusively the province of scholars and people who can study and think deeply about these things, right? This Hasidic, Kabbalistic concept of spiritual truth. Or is it somehow available to everyone? And Honen says, well, it's available to everyone. The Amida Buddha said, if you believe, you can come to my Pure Land. All you have to do is believe. So it doesn't, all this complexity in Tendai Buddhism, all this ritualizing is a lot of nonsense. Because this would cut the Pure Land off from all these people. It's not that complicated. It can't be for it to be real. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in 1205, Honen recognized Shinran's command of his teaching by allowing him to copy out his major work, Passages on the Nembutsu, as well as make a portrait of him, which does not sound very humble.
I mean, all good masters have their students draw a portrait of them, naturally.
Yes. In time, I turn to each of my students and say, okay, your day has come, and inevitably there's tears streaming down their face as they sketch me like Rose in Titanic.
I remember it like it was yesterday. You told me I was going to fail the class unless I drew you. So
we had to break onto that cruise ship. It was a whole thing, but it was worth it in the end. It's a fine portrait you did.
It was a wonderful moment.
So Shinran also received a new Buddhist name. He had been born Matsu Wakamaro, but taken on the names Hanen, Shaku, and Zenshin. So as a Buddhist monk, you take on all these different names. Although approved by Honen, Shinran likely was not a top or favorite disciple. He was just one of Honen's many disciples, because Honen had grown quite popular, as it's a very populist kind of Buddhism he's teaching. So in the 1180s, there was when the conflict between the Minamoto and the Taira was growing violent and intense. Honen packed his bags and relocated to the Otani district in Kyoto, where he converted famous samurai and merchants, as well as outcasts, including prostitutes and thieves. In 1186, he debated monks, who disagreed with his claims about the Nembutsu, and grew to still greater popularity. And in 1190, he was invited to lecture at the Todaji National Temple in Nara. So Honen is, big deal now, very famous. Around this time, the authorities at Mount Hiei and other Buddhist officials became concerned with Honen's ministry. In 1205, the Nara Temple, Kofuko-ji, wrote to the emperor to sanction Honen and his followers. Honen taught that Amida's primal vow, right? If you believe in me, I will take you into my heaven. I vow that I will not, be enlightened unless, my heaven exists and you can go there. This is the primal vow. Honen said it saves all, good or evil, without discriminating between believers. And his critics, and perhaps some of his more immoral listeners, interpreted this to mean that a person did not have to make any effort to refrain from self-indulgence or doing wrong to others if they said the Nembutsu, right? This is easy to read into this, yeah.
Oh, so this is what you were saying. It's not as just like one and done type thing.
Right. Because if that were the case, you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to like with Christianity too. They say like if you say you believe in the end, then like you're like washed clean. But they said it's a little bit more work than that. And I think that's where it also gets a little bit muddied. People
backsliding.
Yeah, they take advantage of it a little bit.
So this is not exactly what Honen taught, and Honen drafted a 7-article pledge, which Shinran, among other disciples, signed. His teaching suggested that Buddhist practices outside the Nembutsu weren't necessary, that paying respect and worship to the kami or the Shinto was also not necessary, and that beggars could be equal to the most learned monks through Amida's vow. This made monasticism a fairly pointless exercise. However, it was not an invitation to, bad behavior. Do you see the difference? He's not saying that you can sin to your heart's content. He's saying, be good, do good, love others, but you don't need to do any of this monk stuff. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're taking it maybe a little bit too far.
Yeah. Be good, do good, love others, believe in the Amida Buddha, and that's it. It's no more complicated than that. Why are we making it so complicated? That's really the teaching.
I like it.
So in 1207, the imperial regent Kujo Kanezane, a convert to Honen's Nembutsu, died, and Honen lost his protector at the court. 2 of Honen's monks held a retreat at which 2 ladies of the court converted to Honen's school. Detractors claimed the monks had used the Nembutsu teaching to cover up for sexual liaisons, presumably with these court women. Now, this is Japan, so this is pretty, this is a bad deal. Like, the honor culture in Japan is hardcore, so this is not going to fly. The Emperor Gotaba exiled Honen and a group of his disciples, including Shinran, to Shikoku, and 4 of his followers were executed. Honen continued to spread his teaching in the countryside to fishermen and peasants. The emperor rescinded his exile in 1211, and Honen returned, dying 2 months later at the age of 78. But Shinran did not return with Honen and never met his teacher again after their exile. Now's where it gets real.
Well, yeah, people were just executed. That's pretty
tough deal. It's because of the violation, right, of Japan's honor code here. I'm using the term honor code, but you see what I mean. It's the stepping outside of the boundaries of the culture. So, exile had a significant influence on Shinran's thought. Honen's gone now. We're down to the last guy. Following the example of the 9th century monk Kyoshin, who retired from the religious life dressed as a layperson and kept no sacred books nor images of worship, Shinran gave up all the trappings of the priesthood, keeping only his robes as a reminder that he strove for enlightenment. In Ichigo, he married Ashini, the daughter of a military steward, and they served as overseers of the nobility's farms and had 6 children. Stripped of his status as a Tendai priest, he took up the name of Gotoku, or Foolish and Shaven Shinran.
I'm sorry. Like he was bald, or
he was shaved. So
foolish.
So foolish and shaven. So he was neither a layperson nor was he a monk. Shaven, by the way, in this context means that Shinran had allowed the hair on his monk's bald head to grow short, indicating that he had lapsed in his vows, and he was foolish for his pretension to wisdom while being inwardly foolish.
It's just a harsh critique to give yourself, like a, to wake up every day and have, what everyone's going to call me now? Because I deserve it. It's foolish and bald.
The bald fool.
Yeah, bald fool.
Call me a bald fool for the rest of my days. Because I dared reach enlightenment.
Being stripped of title, pretension, and self-conceptions down to one's naked self became a core of Shinran's philosophy. He shunned academic Buddhism, immersing himself in people who had no time to study the finer points of Buddhist theology, and moved to Hitachi, where he accumulated a large group of followers, including farmers, tradesmen, and samurai. He established a series of dojos where he passed on to the leadership of his disciples when he returned to Kyoto, now in his early 60s. So the dojos, were then run by his peeps. This period represents a kind of retirement, but during his first decade in Kyoto, he worked on his major text, a collection of passages revealing the true teaching, practice, and realization of the Pure Land Way, which he started perhaps in his 50s, but would not allow to be copied out until he was 75. He also copied out Seikaku's Essentials of Faith Alone and On Self-Power and Other Power by Ryukan, another of Honen's followers. Still dogged by the idea that Honen's teaching allowed a person to do whatever they pleased regardless of morality, Shinran composed a letter to his dojos explaining that true entrusting in Amida's primal vow precipitated a profound self-awareness that precluded self-indulgence. So if you really trust in the primal vow, you're going to be aware of when you're overindulging or indulging generally. In the Tanisho, he would be quoted saying, "Do not take poison just because there is an antidote." Oh, I love this phrase.
That is incredibly powerful.
Because we do it all the time, don't we?
We just dive into it, even though, we can bring ourselves back. It's still the harm that it's doing to you in that moment. Is it really worth it?
You pick up your phone, right? Oh no, I'll sit in nature for 5 minutes. You do, I don't know. You eat that thing, even though you're the cheese, even though you're lactose intolerant. Oh, I'll just take a pill. Do not take poison just because there is an antidote. In his old age, he, what am I saying here? He complained of failing eyesight. In his old age, he complained of failing eyesight and memory, but continued to write. Shinran lived until 1263 and died at the age of 90, tended by his daughter. All right, let's talk about his major work here, the Tanisho. Perhaps the most influential text to come out of his career was not his commentaries on the sutras, but rather the Tanisho, a record of his teachings set down by his disciple, Yuien. So often, right, in the history of philosophy and religion, it is the student who copies the teacher's words. The teacher speaks the words. Socrates and Plato, Confucius and his students, even Christ, right?
I was going to say Jesus, the whole New Testament.
Nobody wrote that down. I mean, he didn't write that down, I should say. So the student wrote down what he could remember of his master's teachings after his master's death in response to his feeling that Shinran's school of Buddhism was beginning to lose the sense of what Shinran believed. This was a kind of micro-mappo, right? So Buddhist mappo is when we lose the Buddha's teaching, and Yuien was worried that we were having a little one where Shinran's teaching was fading, so he needed to write it down. A broader anxiety over society's inability to follow the Buddha's teaching translated to a more local anxiety over Shinran's dojo's inability to follow his path out of the Mappo hellscape. So the Pure Land's going to get you out of Mappo, but only if you remember what Shinran meant. Shinran's teaching connected Genshin and Honin in the belief that the Nembutsu, with its concomitant trust in the Amitabha Buddha, was sufficient. If one is made to give the self up to other power, and true entrusting is complete, even though one does not present even a single sheet of paper or even half a coin to the Buddha Dharma, he or she is in accord with the intention of the primal vow. But, in contrast to Genshin 2 centuries earlier, who focused on believers' rebirth in a better place, Shinran taught that rebirth in the Pure Land can take place here and now. The immeasurable light of the Amitabha Buddha can reach us and elevate us in this life. All the sutras, he said, which reveal the essentials of the truth of other power, simply state, by saying the Nembutsu, entrusting oneself to the primal vow, one attains Buddhahood. What further knowledge is required for birth in the Pure Land? Now think about that. You guys said it, right? If you really mean it when you say it, this is a moment when you attain Buddhahood. Right here and now. Not later. Here and now. Do you see the big difference here? Genshin said you die, you go to the Pure Land. Shinran is saying, no. You open your eyes, you are in the Pure Land.
You've always been in the Pure Land. You're just in the state where you can see it and accept it.
This is like
But-
kind of making me tear up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I told you I was
Yeah.
here for you. I'm here for you tonight. The Pure Land
The
is here for
cleansing,
you.
it's working.
It is. It's happening. I feel
It's
it.
the impurities leaking out his eyes.
The Pure Land was not a place to continue to work toward awakening. Rather, one attains Buddhahood immediately on entering the Pure Land through the working of Amitabha's great compassion. Having attained enlightenment, one then returns from the Pure Land to work on the salvation of all people. I quote, "When true entrusting is realized, Amida grasps us never to abandon us, and we no longer transmigrate through the 6 realms. When we understand this fully, how can we confuse it with the enlightenment in this life?" It's the Amida Buddha, Amitabha, who is with us. And it is that entrusting that lifts us. Because we get out of our own way, our own ego. It's not about us anymore. Quoting Shinran, Yuan wrote, "In entrusting ourselves to the primal vow, no other form of good is necessary, for there is no good that surpasses the Nembutsu, and evil need not be feared, for there is no evil which can obstruct the working of Amida's primal vow. I simply take to heart the words of my dear teacher, Honen. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida, and entrust myself to the primal vow. Besides this, there is nothing else." It's so simple in that way. For Shinran, the shaven fool, Amitabha Buddha's primal vow to save all sentient beings was out of deep compassion for those who cannot become freed from the bondage of birth and death through any religious practice due to the abundance of blind passion. Does that not describe us all? Right? Elsewhere, Shinran says that when we entrust ourselves in Amida's primal vow, we who are like broken tiles and bits of pebbles are transmuted into gold. Shin Buddhism requires acknowledging our inadequacy and brokenness. It's a very humble path. But by accepting that we are low and broken and perhaps even at our worst moments, we can cause the lotus to bloom. We can, through the primal vow, realize the error of our ways, humble ourselves, and see clearly. We also do not need to become Buddhist monks or scholars to realize the power of the vow. The Myokonin are stories of Pure Land believers who achieved awakening through trust in the Amitabha Buddha. This is a tradition that we talked about a bit earlier. Taitetsu Uno defines the word to mean rare good person, and says that of the 140 stories collected of such people, 64 were from peasants, 28 were from merchants. So these are not, monks. The lotus, says Uno, blooms in the muck and mire of society and grows in the swamp of everyday living. It is everyday living, rather than cloistered meditation, that helps one to realize the truth of the primal vow. I do think I believe this in my personal life.
I like that. It's very... Well, because if you spend too much time focusing on praying and being so devout, there is kind of a getting in your own head about that, and you're not fully experiencing and appreciating, again, the life around you, where yes, you can still pray and be grateful, but still be present.
And with who? You're present with yourself, right? I mean, so much of this monastic, ideology is about you. And I do think, this is a central Buddhist quandary, like this is something Krishnamurti deals with. So much of what you're doing, as a monk or a priest or whatever, is you get in your own way inevitably. It's incredibly hard not to, because you come to regard yourself as spiritual, or as, possessing of certain spiritual ability or power, which then elevates your ego and becomes self-defeating.
Yeah. It's like countering what your purpose or like your end goal is. That's kind of like a catch-22, trying to, pursue
Think
that
of the profound patience it takes to like deal with a clogged sink, right? Or a petulant child, right? This is regular life. This is where we're really tested and where we have the opportunity to grow. But it's hard to imagine a cloistered monk having the same opportunity. So this requires truly entrusting ourselves to the Amitabha Buddha in all things, including compassion for others. Here's where it gets a little tricky. In this life, no matter how much pity and sympathy we may feel for others, it is impossible to help another as we truly wish. Thus, our compassion is inconsistent and limited. Only the saying of Nembutsu manifests the complete and never-ending compassion which is true, real, and sincere. It also requires that we reserve judgment of others, not privileging one teacher over another. The Amitabha Buddha and the Nembutsu do not discriminate among teachers or paths within the quest for the Pure Land. This makes the experience of awakening through the Amitabha Buddha a distinctly personal one. It's your own relationship, this should sound familiar, with the Buddha that is the central focus. You have a special relationship. I think it's not Christian insofar as this extends to moral judgments. Rather than inserting one's own calculations into moral questions, Shinran teaches that we must simply entrust ourselves to the inconceivable power of the vow. This prohibition on judgment extends beyond the self to others. Even though some may claim to entrust themselves to the primal vow, they actually feel that only the good are saved, no matter how great the inconceivable power of the vow to save evildoers. To that extent, they are doubting the power of the vow, lacking the thought of entrusting themselves to the vow, and will be born in the borderland. How lamentable this is.
I love the ending of that. Yes.
Lamentable indeed. To judge who will and will not be saved is to doubt the power of the Amitabha Buddha to save all. I love this. I love this in Catholic teaching. I love this in this teaching. It is telling you to stop judging others. Stop it now. You cannot do it. You are wrong. You do not know what these people are going through, and you are calculating, right, their morality, or even, and you need to extend this compassion to yourself too. Am I doing this right or wrong? If you have to ask this question, you're already sort of off on the wrong track. If your intention is to do good, that sort of is enough. And leave others be, because you can't choose for them. Such peace.
That goes with the you can't fix people the way that you want to. Or you can't help people the way that you want to. And that feels really true, because you can have the best intentions for someone, you can have the best advice, or do whatever you feel is best, but the power of that person to change anything in themselves or their life is in them.
I spend a lot of time with feminism because I write a lot on feminism, and I think all the swerfy, turfy, all this sort of business is easily washed away in this very simple idea, right? Even, trad versus, lib, all these questions. You do you. You have the freedom to do you. I think this is the ultimate feminist statement.
The judgment really just subjugates us into little, sub categories and puts us against each other for reasons that really don't matter in day-to-day life. Everyone has their opinions, and we could all just, acknowledge and move on from them without, needing to make it a whole big fight, and just accept that other people have their opinions. They're not for me. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I say this swerfy turfy in many directions, right? Swerf, by the way, sex worker exclusionary, right? Turfy is more famous, trans exclusionary, radical feminist. And I come against these people on a regular basis, and I'm not arguing with them necessarily. It really depends on what their particular argument is. But both us looking at them and casting aspersions at them is to say, I can judge you, but also they're looking out and judging others and saying, well, you don't belong in this camp. You're not part. Your intention or your perspective is not feminist because, feminist is this and not that. I don't know why that springs to mind, particularly on this judgment issue, because I think there's a lot of judging that goes on in liberal corners.
Oh, absolutely. When really we're all, in a liberal space, if we're all there, we're all on the same side, more or less. And people really are genuinely more on the same side. We all have our different opinions and they can get quite extreme, yes, but the divides between all of us is not making it easier for anyone to live their life or have a conversation about
like
it.
Excluding other people, and I feel like there's no union that can really come from that if you're just constantly like pushing against the other.
Politically, it's a kind of libertarianism, which, as I get older and older, I'm more and more friendly to. On the whole, you do you. We need to stay out of it, unless it hurts others. Which I guess becomes a complex thing when you think about seatbelts. But anyway, the scholar James Dobbins argues that modern Shin Buddhism has lost a bit of Shinran's medieval context and come to misunderstand the supernaturalism and mysticism that existed during his career. Modern believers regard Shinran as introspective and solitary, emphasizing inner reflection and self-examination while dismissing the spirit world. He is a universalist in this version of the teacher who transcended the details of social and cultural difference, but Dobbins says these aspects exist in Shinran's teachings, but he cautions us to remember that Shinran also believed he had experienced a supernatural vision of Prince Shotoku, who may have stood in for the Amitabha Buddha himself, and he ascribed the cult of the Bodhisattva canon, who could help believers with this worldly problems, not unlike a shaman spirits or Western pagan deity, things we talked about last episode. Although Shinran claimed to have no disciples, Shinran allowed his worshippers to elevate him when he personally inscribed his portrait with the same verses fixed to icons of the Nembutsu. Remember those portraits?
Still have mine hanging up.
These? Yeah. Oh, lovely. I did inscribe it on the back. To Jake.
XOXO.
These scrolls, XOXO. These scrolls were focal points of worship, making Shinran himself a kind of icon in this context. The Nembutsu for Shinran was not just an intellectual or meditative exercise, it was magical. In short, Shinran was complex, and his complexity is what makes him an interesting and inspiring teacher. If we find shortcomings in his story or his practice, Shinran would be the first to agree with us that he is imperfect, but his imperfection is what made him an ideal subject for the Amitabha Buddha's compassion. Final thoughts?
I mean, anytime we sit down and do this, always like learning cool things, and then there's a lot of stuff that I feel like I could take from my own, or like into my own life, but I feel like this is the first time that like I don't feel like shaken up, but I'm like, this one really hit the most. And I think it's just like waking up to what's actually around. I think maybe it was just the timing of this was lovely, but I'm going to go cry about this
Uno.
afterwards. Oh, okay.
Uno, UNNO, Pure Land Buddhism. He does a nice like overview for the Western reader. You can also read the Tanisho. It's free on the internet.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Nikki?
I'm feeling very cleansed, personally.
Feeling cleansed?
Yeah, feeling cleansed.
Good.
Feeling present and cleansed. Ready to go
Carry
not
on.
judge some people.
If only more people thought like that.
We need to get on that,
Be
man.
the change you want to see.
Now I'm going to make Nikki and Jake sad. We're going to I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the Sacred Order of Alchemical Actors. I'm going to make them sad when I say that probably our next trip, we're going to do a little bit of Japanese folklore and we're going to do some anime.
Oh.
Yes.
All right.
Why is
You
that going to
guys-
make us sad?
Because you did Pure Land, so you don't get to do anime, but you can listen.
I mean, I love it. That's okay. I'll just be giddy on the side supporting.
Do you know Liv is a big Sailor Moon fan?
Yeah.
And Mims knows him some Evangelion. So
I don't know if you know this. I've permanently marked my body with many so far. So
It's not as personal for me. I'm not as sad.
well, this is the moment, Jake. So what have you marked your body
like
with?
tattoos, I have a
Yes.
lot on me. For one, I have Pokemon. Technically, I have some Demon Slayer. Where's the other ones? There's a lot on my legs, but those are the main ones.
Demon Slayer and the Pokemon. You know, my son loves the Pokemon too. He's a child of the 90s, really. Mega Man, Pokemon. Dad's raising him right here.
See someone out ahead.
All right. So come back next time. We'll do just a couple more episodes on Japan before I think we're moving on to Lilith here on Occult Confessions.